So here we go. We're recording a second podcast, our
Woo!
official second one. I can't believe it. We got a mystery guest, or I mean, you know the mystery guest. I've never met them before, and I'm really excited about it. And I have no idea where this conversation is going to go.
Look, truth, I don't know where the conversation's going to go either, but I met them a few weeks ago, and the conversation I had was, well, actually, it blew my mind. And I went, what a cool conversation to have. So we're being a little cheeky by not giving anything away here, um, because I want our listeners to just be as surprised as I was, with the conversation. So hopefully it'll be good. And yeah, here we go. Hang on to your seat. I am super excited to have you on. I know. Well, you've talked to me before. You know I get a little animated. And so look, I appreciate everyone being on with us. And I want to let you all introduce yourselves. So that makes more sense than me trying to go, oh, this is this. So, like, g'day, tell us wherever you want to go with who you are, what makes you all work, whatever.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, we're the Ranger system. We are a D.I.D system of 7 Rangers. I'm going
Hey,
to.
can I just jump in really quickly? Some people
Hmm,
won't know what DID is.
right. Yeah, well, let me just show you guys our logo. So this is our logo. DID is dissociative identity disorder. It is a condition recognized for having multiple selves or multiple identities within a like one body, one brain. Hence, we are called a system because we operate very systematically, you know. In our case, we have 7 different people in our system, and we all support each other. In different ways, both like in our careers and in our personal lives. So, this is our logo that we've designed. You notice that there's an ampersand in the middle, and ampersand is a one of many plural pride symbols. So we also wear our logo very unapologetically. It's I don't like to say it's become part of our brand, but this is technically our brand. And yeah, we're public musicians in the Winnipeg slash Manitoba music scene. And most people in the Winnipeg music scene knows that we have DID, and we're very comfortable talking about it.
Hey,
I
Rangers,
just,
just for
oh,
everybody who's listening on
Mhm.
podcast, not on the video version of it, can you describe what your symbol is, please?
Sure, yeah. Sorry, this is our first podcast. So our logo it looks like a star, like those ones that you would design on paper with like a pentagram starting from one point and drawing it until you get a star. It does have a specific design that looks kind of similar to the Avengers A, because we may or may not like superheroes a lot. Um, and yeah, in the center we have the ampersand. We noticed that the stars have like symbolic meaning for us, but in particular, the reason why we really like the star was that when you create the star in that kind of pentagram form, it's segmented into 6 pieces, and then the silver border itself is kind of the seventh color. So the person that you guys are talking to right now or you're listening to right now is the Red Ranger. Hi, I'm the Red Ranger. At any point in time, if we start switching, because I know a lot of people will probably want us to switch, it is not a gimmick, but when we do switch, we'll kind of let you guys know that we're switching. And I know the Silver Ranger wants to say hi. Hi, I'm the Silver Ranger. I don't know if you can notice a difference for anyone who's watching this, but for anyone who's listening, the Red Ranger is a little bit more of the confident socialite person. I'm a bit more of an introvert. But I want to say hi on behalf of our system. At any point in time, if our system gets the chance to say hi, they will. We definitely have system members who don't really care to say hi, and it's not because they want to be rude or anything. They just prefer to stay in their room or do their own thing in our head.
I like welcome. Welcome to all of you. And I love the fact that Red Ranger and Silver Ranger have said hi. And yeah, I notice a difference in like tone and the way you use sentences. And I think one of the reasons why it was super cool to have this conversation with whoever showed up was, you see all those movies in like theaters of, oh, there's this person with D.I.D, oh, they're scary, oh, they can't live their life. And I think I wanted to say I have a number of friends with D.I.D who are living amazing lives
Mm.
and doing their thing. And people wouldn't necessarily know. And I think I want to be able to say to the public, let's have real conversations here. So,
Mhm.
um, I know Charlotte's got a couple of questions.
Oh, we're excited.
So Rangers, part of the business that I do with Robyn is I come from the family perspective, and I
Mhm.
support a lot of families who, so my job is to look at supports for them as they're caring for someone whose mental health may not be as great as it could be.
Mhm.
And one of the things that comes out often when I'm supporting families whose family member has been given a similar diagnosis to what you all have is they're scared. The family is scared, and the family sees no hope in a future. And what I would love from you is just if you could speak on that, if you were speaking to some family members who are just given this newly diagnosis, for someone that they care about.
Right. Hi, I'm the Black Ranger. I guess I could explain some of how this has impacted our relationships with our family and then how
Right.
it's also, um, if anything, kept us moving towards a future. Um, so first off, yeah, like different family receive different diagnoses differently, right? And it's always going to be a case by case basis based on the family, based on um perception of mental health and perception of different diagnoses ahead of time. A lot of our family didn't really engage in DID as a conversation like positively or negatively. Like they never really like gave any voice to the negative media portrayal of DID, a la Split or anything like that. But they also never really saw any positive interactions with DID either. They just like, what is that, right? Um, and so uh, it's not satisfying to say that like our family hasn't really accepted it, but it's not in a way where it's also like seen as a rejection either. It's just kind of like, oh, this is just another part of the wacky ranger system, you know.
Mhm.
Um, to this day, it's not just family. We still have people say like, "Oh, this is a cool music brand." It's like this is not a brand. Like this is our mental health condition that we live publicly with, and it happens to impact and color our music. But saying all that, I think that's actually attracted people to our music even more because they're like, "Wow, you guys are very unapologetically yourselves in your music," you know? Like my role in our music is I'm a producer. The Red Ranger is the rapper, and the Silver Ranger is the singer slash pianist. So everyone kind of knows this about us. And for a lot of people who follow different like groups from like, Huntrix from the K-pop Demon Hunters, or even something like NSYNC, right? Like different people in these different bands have different roles, and we're no different than that, except it just comes from one body, one brain, one soul. So how it's impacted our future to publicly live with DID. We have I'll cut in here, Red Ranger. We quite literally live multiple lives. Um, engineers by day, or engineers in training rather. And musicians by night. We are definitely getting the chance to live all of our life to the fullest, and it's only because we have not just accepted but thrived in our diagnosis. Like for the longest time since we were kids, we knew we were plurally minded. We had no idea how to communicate that though, because again, DID was never a conversation that happened in the family household. You know, neither good nor bad. It just never happened, right? So there's a constant seeking of what is our mind because we constantly believe that like education is good, that we are constantly learning, that people that turn themselves off from learning are the ones that are probably missing out on a lot of life. Whereas, for us, again, with that concept in mind, knowledge is power, right? So like, okay, if we understand our brain more, then we have more ability to convey that, to communicate that to people. And then, now they can kind of decide at the door whether they accept it or not. But regardless, we get to live our lives at the door, like, so. Yeah, if anything, it's kind of really colored our future brightly. Like a lot of people accept in the music community, especially, and maybe it's because they're all artistically brained, but like, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool." It's like I've never met a system before, and it's like, and then people ask us a lot of curious questions, and it just, I know that there are a lot of systems out there that can't live like publicly, and I want to acknowledge that for fellow systems because, DID is we've heard this before from other professionals that it's a covert diagnosis. So it's something that like even if someone like a proper psychiatrist, which yes, we got our diagnosis from a proper psychiatrist, but even if a psychiatrist or a psychologist gives you that diagnosis, and then you live with that, you might not want to like tell people that publicly because maybe you feel some internalized shame or maybe you won't know how your family or your friends will react. And yeah, we've had a lot of relationship fallout and dare I say relationship trauma because but some of that trauma happened because we didn't know how to properly communicate it versus okay, now we've been living with DID for like publicly for like 2-ish years now. So 2 to 3 years now. So, again, we'd rather live as live our life as ourselves, versus not doing so. And that's helped really open doors for us, in our future. I'll say ahead of time, although I guess this is technically on us because we're the organizers. So you guys are getting some spoilers about this. For anyone living in Winnipeg, Manitoba, we're organizing a fundraiser show in support of Peer Connections Manitoba. So, because yeah, we the support that we got from Peer Connections was really helpful. It helped us build that confidence to live our lives publicly with DID and help us get us through our last year of university. Because we all know how university is stressful.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, but yeah, no, like we're really excited for the ability to embrace our future because we are public with our DAD. Like we would have never like, put ourselves out there and build this fundraiser if it weren't for the people that we worked with in Peer Connection Manitoba. So
I love that. And look, I know the people that you worked with in Peer Connections Manitoba. We are very fond, been there since they got going in their current way of Peer Connections Manitoba. And I want to say, I'm going to take a little kudos here. I know it's not about me, but we train their peer workers. Charlotte and I train all of their peer workers. So, like, that is joy to me to hear that people we engaged with in training were that support for you. Like, I have goosebumps. Just do. And hey, I've got a question, if it's
yeah.
okay. I mean, you kind of said most things aren't off limits, and I want to be respectful too. But when you were talking about university, I was thinking, oh, like, is it like different people, not different, like rangers have different specialties, like are better equipped at studying different things, like I know it's a lame question. I want to apologize for it, but I
No,
think
it's not a
people
lame question at
probably
all.
have it, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, so I want to stress that all systems operate differently.
Yeah.
Um, and so for our system, um, a lot of so we engage with the system community. We haven't done so a lot in the last couple of months, but we are part of a couple Discord chats, like and yeah, a lot of systems, like fellow systems, have told us like you guys are an adaptive system, and we're like, what does that mean? And a lot of these terms are coined by the system community, and so how we would describe an adaptive system is a system that has system members that, you know, I don't want to use adaptive in the definition, but like can have different roles as needed. And so for our case, me and the Black Ranger, and by the way, us calling ourselves like, these power, like we definitely named ourselves based off Power Rangers. I'm just letting everyone who's listening know right now that we named our system based off Power Rangers, and we unapologetically love that. We also definitely embrace the colors that we've chosen for ourselves. So, um, again, I'm the Red Ranger, and um, for me, being the rapper, but also like studying engineering, like I was always like if there's a wall, I'm gonna punch it. Like, I'm just gonna keep punching until I get through. And yeah, is that really safe in real life? No. But metaphorically, what I mean by that is like, okay, there's a problem, like an engineering calculation or something. I'm just gonna keep working at it until I get through it. The Black Ranger operates very differently. They like to think about everything and be very strategic. I am the Deadpool to the Black Ranger's Batman. Um, yeah, I guess I should speak because I keep being brought up. I'm the Black Ranger. Hi. So I'm very strategic, as the Red Ranger kind of mentioned earlier. I like to plan out, okay, why am I being asked this question as opposed to doing it, and
Mhm.
then figuring out like a process for myself. And so how me and the Red Ranger kind of balance each other, and the seven of us all balance each other in different ways, but the way that we balance each other is I'm very methodical, but the Red Ranger is very like improv focus, improvisational. So
Oh, it sounds like Charlotte, the very methodical, and me, the very improv. Like,
I was
woohoo,
well,
thinking
let's
as
do
you were
it.
describing, I was like, okay, I guess I know which one I am in this. Robyn and I have very different ways to communicate, very different ways of processing information. And for it took us a long time to figure that out about ourselves. We'd be saying the same thing
yeah.
and not hearing each other like it was. So I'm loving this conversation.
And I guess that's something that we knew about ourselves internally, even before we had the knowledge of DID diagnosis and the official diagnosis. Like back when we were kids, again, we knew that we were poorly minded since we were 9 or 10. Just never had the ability to communicate that properly. But even back then, we were always like, okay, I can't do this, but maybe they can. And then they would point to me and then I would do it. So there are definitely situations I think you guys know with your guys' relationship that like sometimes it is better to be methodical, but then there are other times where it might be better to be improvisational. And having that blend or balance is really key. Um, yeah, so like Red Ranger again.
I
Um,
got you, Red.
well, I feel like I should keep explaining myself for anyone who's listening, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah. Me and Robyn are just like, oh, let's do this, and then let's do this, and let's do this. Let's just have fun.
And I'm like, please keep telling who's coming up so that
Yeah.
people who are not watching this video can know who they're listening to.
Hey, people, I'm hoping that as we have this conversation, people start to hear the difference because there is a difference in the way each of you sound. Hey, I have another question, if it's
Yeah.
okay. I love that you keep talking about plurally minded. So one of my friends, and they don't call themselves a system, but they talk about having, I think, 13 plurals. And, they like jump out and chat and everyone knows everyone, and they talk about plurality as its own culture, just like the deaf or hard of hearing culture, or like the mental health culture, or the like musician culture. I'd love to hear your thoughts on like plurality as a culture.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So plurality as a culture, what that means to us is how we like explore plurality and communicating that to people. Like regardless of if we had the diagnosis of DID or not, we know we're plural, right? And saying we, right? Like, sometimes people might ask or think about, okay, how come there are times where you guys say I and then times where you say we? You
Mm.
know? And as a side tangent, a lot like one of the biggest symptoms of being a system is system doubt. So seeding doubt in our head is definitely not a good thing for people that are poorly minded. But I will say again, with the I versus we thing, in a communicative sense, I'll say that like there are times where I feel the only person in our system connected to a thing. Like I
Mm.
love chocolate. A lot of people in our system like chocolate, but I love chocolate, you know? Um, but then I might correct myself like mid-sentence or literally in that millisecond. It's like, oh, sorry, we love chocolate because there's at least one other person in our system that loves chocolate, right? And then when I say we and then correct to I, it's the reverse. So it's like we, as in like, I'm under this assumption that multiple of us, okay, sorry, I gotta say it, you know? Like, or never mind we, I love music, like, I gotta say that on behalf of all seven of us, like, um, so, that's like only one of many different ways that like that's part of like the Pearl culture is like, oh, we shouldn't need to explain that we're using I/we, but we are, and some people want to ask us that. Um, I want to touch on this. I know that religion is a touchy subject for some people, and it is you know, sometimes part of someone's trauma story. But I will say that religion has played a very positive part in our lives. And one thing that helped get us through a lot of our mental health struggles was our faith. And you would wonder, like, how does plurality and faith connect to each other?
Mm.
But, in the Christian faith, like, God is seen as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is three entities but in one. So that's very plural coded. That's very system coded. So I only bring up religion as an example of how our plurality helps us connect to it because there's something there that helps us explore this we/I dynamic. Um, and yeah, there are other like examples in the media that aren't negative that like help us really celebrate plurality as a culture. Again, when we say culture, like culture has such a big definition and a big
Yeah,
catch-all. Like, there's
yeah.
so many ways that we could describe that. And there was, I'll tell you this right now. The Black Ranger's trying to find it in her head while I'm talking to you in real
Oh,
time. But there was one other point I wanted to make about plurality as a culture, and I just can't like we just can't find it in time. But if
where'd
we,
it go? It's in there.
you know,
Hey,
but yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question or gives you an idea of like how we kind of explore it.
that totally for me, I just love that term plurality minded too. That's pretty cool. I see Charlotte is leaning forward. Those of you who can't see the video, I have no idea, but she's leaning forward. So I know
No,
there's something there. What's happening?
I have lots of questions for
Yeah.
all of you. One that was coming up is how in relationships, and I really appreciate how what you were saying about, family and how that played out for you, how some people were more open to hearing what
Mhm.
your system was all about, some who aren't ready for it. But when you're thinking of your friendships and your relationships, do you have friends that like the Black Ranger more? I'm going to side with the one that I self-identify with, but I also love the excitement of Red Ranger too. So like, how do friendships play in? Do you have closer friendships? Say you Red Ranger, um, or do
I
friends
can
ask
answer
to
you.
see Red Ranger, not Black Ranger? I'm just curious.
Right. Black Ranger here. So I'll For the most part, we've been very privileged to see friends accept all of us. As in, like, if I'm friends with one of you, I'm friends with all of you. Or I love all of you, even if I might talk with only one person the most. The Red Ranger fronts the most, and that's part of his kind of role in our system, apart from being the rapper and being the socialite. Like his kind of role that our system has kind of assigned to him is and again, we all have different pronouns, by the way. He will be the person that most people talk to or engage with. I usually engage or talk in an educational sense, and I think you kind of understand that, or I'll step in for a professional setting. So that's why typically I interact with a certain friend of ours, which I won't mention by name, but we have several friends where most people, or maybe not most people, sorry, I want to rephrase that. One of our friends, we talk a lot of music business with. And so because of that, I'm the one who's talking with them the most, if that makes any sense.
Oh,
Um, I
totally.
I don't think that they have any preference over who they're talking to. It just so happens to be that I'm the person talking to them the most. Yeah. I know which friends, sorry, Red here. I know which friend that Black's talking about, and I guess I should also mention this while I have it on the train of thought. We don't have any dissociative barriers between our memory, so this conversation is a through line for all of us. That again is not the same with all systems. Some systems have dissociative barriers, and it's like, oh, where am I? You know?
I've met people, I know a few people who I'll be chatting, something will happen, they talk about switching and they'll be like, where am I? What was I
Mm.
talking about? And that must be very disrupting
Yeah.
and dislocating for people. So look, I love that you're talking about there are different
Yeah.
systems and the way they show up, the way they engage, the way they work. And I think that's one of the important things. So I really appreciate you putting that out there.
Yeah, no, we want to heavily emphasize that a lot of systems believe that systems exist on a spectrum and that we operate very differently. Like, um, again, we are very scientifically minded because we studied engineering and that's kind of our background. And so we think about, like, if two twins became systems, or if two twins were always systems, will they have the exact same number of members? The answer is most likely no. You know, we know systems that exist in the thousands. And like, I was not asking this question to be mean. This is just a playful, like, hey, I gotta know, like, do you guys have a system member just to brush your teeth? And it's like, yes, and one to comb our hair. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. Like, and yeah, meanwhile, there are systems like us that have a smaller number, like seven. We know a system that's like at three, you can be a system if you have just like, to be a system, you need just at least two identities, you know? Um, Not that I'm making this like a game or anything. Like, this is something that, like, again, a lot of people are just poorly minded or poorly coded, regardless of whether or not they have an official diagnosis, you know? Um, and so, yeah, we always want to stress whenever we're talking about DID, or whenever we're talking about plurality, that we might be this awesome example that people see in us, but we're not every system. And, we can only do our best to convey that different systems operate differently, And, that doesn't mean that they're not deserving of love or affection or compassion. It's just that, the way that you guys interact with us might not be the same way you interact with another system.
Look, I want to say I love that you put in that piece about there are systems who don't have the official diagnosis,
Mm.
but are still completely valid
Yeah.
with their experiences. And I think I'm always saying it's not about whether we've got a diagnosis or not. It's about, can people interact with how we show up, and can we show like compassion and empathy, have people, however they show up, the
Yeah.
system, and people that aren't systems in the same way. can we support that I see you, I hear you, I validate you, instead of, oh, well, if you don't have a diagnosis, that's not real. Or if you have a diagnosis, we have to fix you somehow. I just have this huge thing about, can we not just show up and be with people and support them in what they're wanting support with, instead of us continually trying to change it? And I remember someone I know who's a Métis peer worker said, and they experience what the world might call lots of psychosis, seeing, hearing things culturally. That kind of could be really appropriate. Why are we saying it's something different? And they said one day, I'm tired of being colonized for my mental health, as well as, First Nations people being colonized because they didn't look or act or be a certain way. And I went, wow, how true is that? Like, can we not just show up and be with however we see people, talk with people, chat with systems, whatever it is? Sorry, you got me on a soapbox. I got excited.
No, we stand the soapbox, like
Yeah.
again, we hear you, we resonate with you, it's just like, yeah, and I don't want to tell people like trans people are diagnosis. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of trans friends that we have that
Yep.
like they just want to be seen and heard and acknowledged with their correct pronouns. And that's when you were talking about that, I was just like, yeah, no, we have a lot of friends that we live with, that we exist with, where, regardless of whatever neurodivergency they live with, regardless of like how they wants to present themselves, we want to accept them as themselves. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you say your pronouns are he, him, cool. I'm just gonna use he, him, like there's nothing wrong with that. That's not it's not a hard thing to do.
No.
Um uh anyway, yeah, and I wanted to also answer Charlotte's question for the record that although I don't know if people actually have a favorite, I want to believe that I'm the favorite.
I'm with you, Red. I'm
You
there.
know, Hi, Violet Ranger here. I did not think I'd be speaking, but I do want to say that I think that I'm the favorite. So I don't want, Red to steal all that thunder. My pronouns are she, her, by the way. And I think, Robin, we did chat briefly over the phone before this podcast.
We did. I think we did. Really nice to chat with you again.
I, again, did not expect to front, but I just wanted to say hi.
Hey, I'm
Uh,
super
that
glad.
that was Violet. And we're back to Red. So I don't know.
I'm super glad that Violet and Silver showed up and said hi. And Violet, you know, I don't know if you're the favorite or not, but I dig you, girl. I dig you.
Oh, and the White Ranger, while she doesn't want to front, she does say hi. Um, and actually that brings up a good point about like the culture and with systems again. Like both the White Ranger and the Violet Ranger are girls,
Mm.
and for the long time they've wrestled with the idea of like, do they get to call themselves trans women versus just being called women because they're born women in our system? And
Yeah.
again, that's such a it's kind of a question that I feel like we can define for our system,
Mhm.
but other systems define it differently. And, I think they've both come to the place of accepting that they count as trans women. Now, um, what's been an interesting conversation for ourselves is like, do we transition too? And the thing is that like I really resonate with being a guy. I am a he, him in the same way that they are she, hers. So big decisions like that come down to like a unanimous decision of okay, all of us agree that we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Where when a decision of something like, oh, do we get matcha latte or iced macchiato, you know? It's like, well, okay, fine, we can vote on this, you know, but I really want this drink and Violet really wants this drink and everyone else is abstaining because they don't really care, you know? I know that that question wasn't asked, but you know, if you guys were wondering how we make decisions on a day-to-day basis, those are definitely, you know, ways that we go through the decision-making process. Um,
I
You,
love that. And Charlotte, you were going to say something. I'm sorry, I get excited and jump in.
you know, I Rangers, thank you so much for this conversation because and I'm talking on the family side is we've been introduced to a new way of thinking.
Mhm.
I personally I'd never heard DID with systems before, and what excites me the most is the opportunity for this podcast to be sent to somebody whose maybe child identifies with what you're saying, and parents
Mhm.
have never been able to figure it out because what you're saying is you all work together. Your system makes it work. All of the rangers in this system makes it work. It's not scary.
Yeah.
I'm hearing so many great conversations that you have all together in order to get, be musicians, be a engineer, all these parts of your life. And none of this is scary. And I know there's this hope. And I love the word hope, Robyn. I know there's so much hope in this podcast. And I really appreciate everything that you're sharing, all of you. And I want to have you back. So
Aw.
whenever you're ready,
Oh, we'd love
and
to be back. This
yeah.
is really fun. Yeah, just to extend that conversation on hope here, right? We haven't been performing publicly for a year. We haven't been performing publicly until this recent year, rather. And part of that was because we were focusing on engineering. Part of that was because we wanted to figure out who are we, you know, what is this mental neurodivergency, and now we have that, right? And since performing out, we've only been performing for basically a year. Since performing publicly, we have performed at Pride, we performed at Fringe, we performed at a new festival called Village Fest. We've hosted 3 open mics now. So our music career was not impeded by, if anything, it was like accelerated because we were allowing ourselves to be ourselves. And similarly with engineering, like we've been consistently working in the field. Sure, do we live publicly with the DID knowledge in that industry? No. But I will say that we are not just living, we're thriving with our life, you know, with our diagnosis, with the fact that we live with plurality. It is not like this is stopping us from doing the things that we're doing. If anything, it's allowing us to be able to do the things that we're doing, you know? And it's that kind of radical acceptance of ourselves that has really helped us get through, you know, a lot of the trauma, a lot of the pain, a lot of the growing pains of just like where do people accept this knowledge? But yeah, I mean, we're you know, we're happy to allow that be a part of our journey in life, you know? So
Well, thank you for letting us have a snippet into your world. My heart is so full right now. And part of what we do, Robbins and my, is that lifelong learning. And, I learned a lot today. So thank you for that.
Hey, I have one question. I can
Mm.
hear Charlotte closing up, but like I have a question. If you were going to say to the public, like, and I'm trying to think of the way I want to turn this question, like, what would you want from the public in terms of being there for, and I get different systems are different, but what would you say to the public about how you would want them to show up if they found out someone had DID? Is there anything you want to say to how we can better support people who are struggling, or like are doing well, but have said, hey, I've got DID.
Yeah, I think a big part of this conversation that we've had for this podcast, right, is like all systems that operate differently.
Yep.
And so if you want to show up for a system, ask them what they want, right? Some systems don't want to be
Yeah.
public yet or aren't ready to be public yet. Maybe they don't want to be public at all, right? Some systems, like other people, especially within the queer community, have different pronouns, right? So maybe respecting what they, how they identify themselves as, right? Um, yeah, and I think that this is a question that could extend to any person of neurodivergency, any person of different identity. Like just ask, right? I don't like we don't like making assumptions with anyone.
Yeah.
Like the first time, whenever we introduce ourselves to someone new, we're like, hey, we're the Ranger system. We are a system. We have DID. Our pronouns are they, them. You can feel free to ask us any questions. By the way, what are your pronouns? How do you want to be identified as,
Mhm.
And I feel like that's a question that can extend towards anyone, whether it's a system or a singlet, singlet being the term for people of singular.
Singlet.
Yeah. That again, that's a system coined term. So, but anyway, so regardless if I'm talking to a fellow system or a singlet, I'll be like, yeah, hi, we're the Ranger system, you know, um, what's your name? What are the pronouns you want to go by? I think that's like such a simple way of asking and showing
It
up for
is.
someone is just respecting, what, they want to identify themselves with and what pronouns they want to use, right?
Look, I love that you said that. I think it's really simple.
Hmm.
Like, chat with someone, be passionately curious. Like, don't make assumptions. I do want to make one silly comment here.
Go
You
for
talked
it.
about a singlet. In Australia, a singlet is those white wife beater things that guys wear. And so you said singlet. I am forever in my head going to think of myself as one of those white things. And I love that you talked about, the whole trans thing and on like even a spectrum for that. Like inside, I'm very clear. I'm a straight white male and I'm in this body. I
Mhm.
am choosing for a variety of reasons not to do anything about it. Charlotte
Mhm.
has to interpret girl for me sometimes because I'm like, my brain doesn't work like that. And whenever people ask me about pronouns, I go, I don't care because for me, they're your construct,
Yeah.
not mine. For other people, it is very important. So let's ask people, check it out. So, oh my God, my soul is full with this conversation. I can't even describe how I feel. So, thank you, and thank you to like red, silver, black, violet, and white, and the others as well for just being in the conversation. Um, yeah. Charlotte, do you want to say anything? And I'm going to let um, whoever wants to chat from the Ranger system to have the last word.
As I said earlier, please keep in touch. We, especially with your music career, I'm very excited to see where that goes. And, I live close to Winnipeg, so hopefully I can, attend one of your events in the future. So please keep in touch. And we will let you close it out with however you want to end it.
Yeah. I honestly had no idea we'd have the closing words or remarks. Thank you for having us. If you guys want to appreciate like really good plural media, Moon Knight from Disney Plus is actually a really good series that explores DID slash plurality. It is a series that also has superpowers, but it does a really good job of demonstrating the difference between like plurality versus like possession, because there's like spirits involved. or gods involved. And then like plurality and acceptance of plurality and how different system members can interact with each other, even if it's done in a very cinematographic kind of way. Like, I don't know if I'm using that word right. You know, and then yeah, if you'd like to follow us and our music, we are again public with that. So our Instagram is the underscore ranger underscore system, the ranger system. So I'm glad we got that Instagram name before anyone else could. And we have our first single out. Our first single is called One Up. It's a video game centric song about just, recognizing where we are in life and accepting that, we have obstacles, but we're just gonna keep, getting through them. Um, and then yeah, that fundraiser for Peer Connections Manitoba is gonna happen May 14th in Winnipeg. So if anyone wants to know about that and you guys are
May
interested,
14th, 2026, yeah?
yes. Yeah.
Because we're planning on people listening to this podcast for many years to
Yes,
come.
of course, of course.
So
And yeah, we'd be happy to be on again. So thank you again for having us.
awesome.
It's been nice.
So my cheeks are killing me from smiling so much, and my mind is just so going so many different places. I hope people find this podcast and hear it. Yeah. Anyway, your turn.
I hope you get why I asked to have rangers as guests, and I hope that people get to get a sense of that D.I.D, like, yes, for some people can be tough, and for others, as Red was saying, it was supportive of their life. And I hope we remember that. I think it's not necessarily what we have, but I think part of it can be how others respond to it too, right? In that place of, if we can embrace it and find out what people need for support, like, how much further does that go in supporting people to have the life of their dream? Like, there are so many things that they all shared and said. I can't wait to have them back on, because, after they got off, they were like, oh, I could have said this and this and
I
this.
know.
And one of the others was like, I could have said this. And so, look, systems are a spectrum, and like singlets, oh, I love that term, are a spectrum too, right? And so how do we show up and just be with people? My soul is full, and I
Yeah.
hope other people's are too.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And just remembering the line that you use and I use is being passionately curious with people and holding our biases too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing really quickly at the end, like, because I want to do a little plug here. Like, they talked about they were doing some stuff with Peer Connections Manitoba fundraising because of the amazingness of the support they received. And I feel super proud that we trained the
All of them.
peer workers there. And so if anyone is looking for peer support worker training, please check out Robyn Priest Live Your Truth. I know it was a shameless plug, but I'm going to do it because that is what makes a difference for people, how we show up when we're like supporting them, and people can get the life of their dreams. So thanks for listening to the podcast, And we love you, and we're going to have more like topics like this where we can explore real conversations with real people.